Recording is on.
All right, we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, what I'm going to run through this morning is kind of tips and tricks related to Outlook. Everybody at the company pretty much knows the basics of Outlook, and you may know many or all these tricks. These are just a few little random things about Outlook that you may or may not know. Um, and there might even be stuff about Outlook that you know that I don't, because Outlook is one of those programs that can do a bunch of crazy things if you really get into it. The first thing that I wanted to talk about, which we've talked about in trainings in the past, but I just wanted to cover it again, is just kind of reporting spam and then talking about that a little bit. So I'm going to go back and forth between this PowerPoint and Outlook so you can actually see me doing stuff. We're not going to report this email per se, but I think most of us know that there's the report message button. And anytime you get, spam or phishing, you come up here and report it as junk, which is what Microsoft calls spam or phishing. What I wanted to talk about for 1 minute about this, because I realized that maybe I hadn't really discussed it in the past, or people might not know the difference, is the difference between junk or spam and phishing. So junk or spam is just trashy email you don't want, right? Like somebody who's constantly trying to advertise something that you don't care about. Whereas phishing is actually an attack email. These are the kind of emails where they're like, hey, send money to this account. From our perspective, and I don't really know why they still have it separate, it doesn't really matter which one it is, nor which one you choose. What happens, and the reason that we do this the way that we do it now, is that when you report these emails get reported back all the way to Microsoft corporate. And because they have, not just our email, but, thousands of companies across the United States, the idea is that if somebody's out there, sending out bad emails, and instead of just two of us from our company, but thousands of people across the US report it, it's quicker that it gets identified as a bad email address or a bad email and gets shut down. So I just wanted to kind of explain how that works and why it works the way that it does. And then the other thing is just to know that, if you ever go to your junk email and say that for whatever reason, this email right here is not actually junk, you can unreport something as well. So you can come up here to select not junk, and you can do the reverse. That way, if Outlook for whatever reason caught some stuff, thought it was bad, but you're like, no, this is actually a customer of mine or something important, that's how you can go back and reverse that. I'm going to talk for a second here about kind of email organization and a couple of the tools that are available within Outlook. So one obviously is folders. You can always sort and organize your stuff via folders. Just click and drag them in. I wanted to show a couple of the other tools. So you have follow-up with flags. I always call them flags because these things look like a little flag. And they're just, to me, a tool that I use to remind myself to follow up stuff. So you can actually go down here in my email bit and see, the different emails that I've flagged for follow-up. You can also right-click, go to follow-up, and give it different kind of levels of follow-up today, next week, whatever. I tend to just use the flag itself just to remind me what I need to do. The other thing is you can do categorization. So I haven't really seen anybody around BuildBlock do this, but some people, this is a real big deal. So come up with systems, to label things different colors. So then you can come back later and kind of identify things. Now, this whole color system is whatever you want to make it, right? You can create different colors. You can have their meaning be whatever you want. If you go to all categories, so I'm going to do this again. Categorize. You have your basic default ones that are always in Outlook. If you go to all categories, at this point, this is where you could come in and make the adjustments you wanted to do. So to me, if you were ever going to use the system, you probably wouldn't want it just to have the name of the color. That might not mean a lot to you. And so you can come in here, rename it, blue maybe advertising or whatever it is that you want it to be. Now, when you come back to label stuff, right, it's going to say advertising versus just blue or whatever. So those are a couple of the basic tools in Outlook. And then I wanted to show you guys real quickly how to create a rule. This may be something you already know how to do, and it may be helpful to you, and maybe not. I have a couple rules set up. I tend to not go too crazy with them. But basically, the easiest way to create a rule is based around an email that's come in. So let's say that every time April emails me, she does HR, I want it to go to my HR folder over here. So we're going to right click again, and we're going to come down to rules and then just create a rule. It's already going to know kind of what you're talking about because you started with that email. So anything that comes from April King, you could do it based on subject. You could do it based on who it's sent to, but generally it's going to be about who it's from. And then you can have it do whatever it is you want it to do, right? So move to a folder, and I'm going to select my HR folder. Okay. Okay. It's going to tell me now. Now you always have an option right here to either run the rule or not. And what that means is if you don't run the rule, just in the future, these things are going to happen. If you run the rule now, it's going to look at your inbox and go ahead and apply that rule. So we'll go ahead and do it, and you should see the email go out of my email inbox. Boom. Now that stuff's going to automatically go to my HR folder. So I just wanted to show you that there's a way via settings to go and create rules, but in my opinion, it's always easiest just to start with an email that you know you want treated somehow in some particular way, and then create that rule. Okay, let's talk email signatures real quick. Email signatures is another thing that you can do via settings, but the easiest way is just by creating an email. So you go to new email, and then let me expand this. You go to your signatures button, which you would use to insert a signature, but also in here is the signatures option. And at this point, you can create signatures. Let me grab my signature so I can show you this. Okay. There's my signature. Okay, let me come back over here to my new email. And then in signatures, you create a new one. I have always having two, one called long, one called short. I'm going to do long. Well, of course, it's broke. Let's see here. Let me go over here to my other Outlook because I can show you there easier. Okay, so got a new message, signatures, and then you just create your signature. The one thing I wanted to show you is you can do, like I said, you can do like a long and a short version. So this is my standard signature, like most of you have seen. I'm going to create a new one. I'm just going to say it's Mike Jones by itself. Let's see here. Call this short. The main thing I wanted to show you here is you can do the idea, if you've seen it, of like a full signature every time you send, say, like a new email, and then say you're just replying and you just want, some shorter or more basic email. This is where you can do that. So we can have the standard one, this big guy, for all new emails. But then on replies and forwards, where maybe you don't want your full, especially if you have like a big message block at the bottom, you don't want that every single time, you can select the short one. And so I will show you that in action. So like, for example, here, I've got a new email. You can see it's got the full signature. Whereas if I'm just replying back to Jake, it's just using the short signature. So that's just an option. If that's something that's helpful to you, it just can be a way of keeping your email a little bit less cluttered. Let's see what else we got in here. Okay, let's talk about automatic or out of office replies real quick. I think most everybody knows how to do this, but I just wanted to cover it real quick. So within Outlook, the easiest and quickest way of doing this is you come over to File. And then this is kind of, File is really more like settings page is what I would call it. So within here, you can go to account settings, and this is where you can get to basically everything, but there's so many settings in there, it can be kind of distracting. But one thing they have in here is automatic replies. So you can set your automatic replies. It's going to be defaulted to off. And so you're going on vacation or just going to be out of the office, you, of course, turn it on. You can basically do this one of two ways. You can either just turn it on, and it's going to be on until you decide to come back in here and turn it off, or you can set a date. I tend to set a date. That way when I get back from work, because I know when I'm going to be back, that I don't accidentally forget and leave it on for a couple of days. But you can do it either way. And then the other thing to know is that there's a differentiation between inside the organization and outside the organization. And so, of course, it's going to know basically inside the organization is anybody with an @buildblock.com email address. And then outside is going to be everybody else. So I think we all get the idea of the difference between those two things. You can kind of word those the same if you want, or you can word them differently. But the point is just to remember that you have the two. And so you want to make sure that you fill out both of these, whether you want them to be different or the same. Because if you don't fill out the outside one, then it's only going to be for people inside the organization and vice versa. I tend to, I've seen people do this differently. So it might be something simple internally, just like I'm on vacation. Whereas externally, you might have something like, thank you for contacting me. I'm on vacation till this date. Please contact this person while I'm out, et cetera, et cetera. So again, I'm just going to go back just to cover that real quick. File. So if you want to do out of office replies, you go to File, and then there's a whole button for it right here, Automatic Replies. Okay, I just want to talk about this real quick. Sending group emails, especially within BuildBlock. The best way to always send a group email is to BCC it. Now, within Outlook, they don't include the BCC line by default anymore. So you have to come to Options, I believe. Yeah, Options, and then hit BCC, and then that line gets added back in. Just for anybody that doesn't know, CC stands for carbon copy, whereas BCC stands for blind carbon copy. So the difference being is on carbon copy, everyone who receives the email will see everyone who got it. And when they reply back, it goes to everyone on the list. Whereas blind carbon copy allows you to send to a wide group, but each person's not going to be able to reply back all. So, for example, like when I asked everybody about polo sizes the other day, I BCC'd everyone so that as people are hitting reply, those emails were only coming back to me versus the whole company having to see all these emails of what people's t-shirt size was. So this is just not really a tip or a trick. It's just kind of best practice that when you're sending out an email to a bunch of people and everyone doesn't need to see responses back, it's always best to use BCC, just kind of out of respect to everybody so that you don't have to get all that additional email spam back as people reply to the emails. Let's see here. Okay. I wanted to show just a couple quick tips and tricks about when you're not getting email and you think you should be. So the very first thing to do, this is going to be different from organization to organization, but this is what you should always expect at BuildBlock. Right down here at the bottom, you'll see it says connected to Microsoft Exchange. It could say connected to other things at other companies, but ours is always going to say Microsoft Exchange. And that is how you know that your email is actually connected to Microsoft servers and communicating. So that's always just like a good quick indication. Anytime anybody tells me they're having email issues, this is one of the very first things I'm going to look for. And if it says offline, or it will sometimes say syncing with like a little bar, that tells me that something between your Outlook and Microsoft has gone awry. So if it doesn't say this, then probably the answer is call me and I'll try to figure out why. But it's just an indication of maybe what might be going on, or if you're having that issue or not. The other two things that you can do, one is do a manual send and receive, which is pretty easy in the current version of Outlook. There's a whole tab here for send and receive. And as soon as you get there, there's a big button. And so on occasion, as I think we've all seen, Outlook just has a bad day and it's just not wanting to work super well. Sometimes by going in here and doing a manual send and receive, which just forces it to do a sync, that will kind of get it over whatever issue it's happening. This is another one of those things where if it doesn't work, then probably the answer is just to call me and have me look into it further. But on occasion, somebody's having an email issue, this can be as easy as to fix, which is just to kind of go in Outlook, tell it to do a send and receive to get it to kind of reconnected back up to the server. Also close and reopen Outlook kind of thing. Those are kind of your basic troubleshooting steps. The other thing I wanted to show is under View. Yes. Okay. So under View, there's this big button right here, Show Focused Inbox. By default, we turn this off every time we set up a computer. So most of you might have never even seen this before. But what it does, you can kind of look right here in this part of Outlook, is as you turn it on and off, Focused Inbox is Microsoft's attempt to show you your most important email. But what that does is now you have two inboxes. So you have your Focused Inbox and your other inbox. And what will happen sometimes when people think they're not getting email is this will have been accidentally turned on or left on. And then those emails are in their other inbox, which if you like that feature, great. But I've never really met anybody that does. And it just kind of makes you have now two inboxes that you have to manage. And so in general, I will always go and just turn that off by default whenever we set up a new computer for anybody. But I just wanted to show you that this is something that can come get you and kind of make you think you're not getting email. Okay. Similar idea, I wanted to talk about searching. So as we all know, you just come up here and click and search, but there is something that can mess people up. You might not have ever noticed this. So when you click and search, this appears right here, which is an option for what you're searching. By default, it's going to say current mailbox. That's kind of Microsoft's default. I tend to go all Outlook items. That way, if it's not in my inbox, so it's basically going to search whatever you've currently got selected if you have current mailbox selected. If you just search all Outlook items, then you're going to get everything, right? And so if I'm looking for an email from Jay Ladwig and it's not in my inbox, I can search and not find it if I have current mailbox selected. But if I just do all Outlook items, then it's going to look at all my subfolders, et cetera, and find all the stuff from whatever it is I searched, in this case, emails from Jay Ladwig. I just wanted to point that out. That's another one of those little things that sometimes people won't notice this, and they'll think they'll say, I'm searching and I can't find these emails. It's because you have current mailbox selected. So like I said, you can do all the various options, but in general, all Outlook items is the best one. It's then just going to search everything in your Outlook. That will also include non-email items. And what I mean by that is like calendar events and contacts. So that's also, if you're looking for a calendar event or something like that, that'd be an important thing to note. All right, some other quick little random things. Let's go back to, let's find me a good email here. Actually, let's look at this email from Jay. I just wanted to show you this quick little tip, which might be helpful, especially for the sales guys that are working with a lot of like outside contacts. If you start communicating with someone and you want to save them as a contact in Outlook, there's a quick way to do that, which is you can just take an email from them, literally drag it down to the contacts tab, which is the two little guys, and just let go. And it's going to automatically open up a contact with all that person's info. It's going to save their email and any other associated stuff that came in via that email. And then you can just literally hit save and close. And now you've got a contact for that person. So I thought that was kind of a fun little quick way, especially for like the sales guys that might be needing to save contacts all the time, of just getting that stuff saved real quick and easy, and also completely accurately, because it's going to automatically pull all the info from the email. And I want to show you one more thing. We're going to go back to File, and we're going to go actually into the settings pane. So let me just show you something. So File, Account Settings, and then again, Account Settings. Oh, no, that's the wrong one. Sorry. File and Options is what I meant to click. Okay. This is many settings. You can get in here and do all sorts of stuff. in general, you can probably get yourself in trouble more than anything getting in here and really clicking around. But I wanted to show one thing. You notice that I employ a dark theme. For my eyes, that just works better for me than the bright whiteness. And so I wanted to show you how that works. So the easiest way is, again, File, then come down to Options. And then the very first page is going to get opened. Right down in this area right here is where you can select themes. So you can see I have black selected. White is going to be the default one that you're kind of used to if you haven't messed with this. Dark gray is just like you would think, it's a dark gray theme. And then this little office background, you can select any of these you want. What it's talking about is this.
Mike, I think you muted.
Yeah, I can't hear you anymore, Mike. I think you may have muted yourself.
Sorry about that, guys. I don't know how that happened. You can hear me now, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
cool. So anyway, I was just explaining there. I think you can kind of see me clicking through, but there are these different modes. And so I'm going to go back to black here, which is my preferred one. That just makes everything as dark as it basically can be, leaves the least amount of light shining in your eyes, which is what I prefer. Now, I will show you if you do use dark mode. So here's my email from Jake. And for some reason, you want to see this email not in dark mode, but you don't want to go into settings and change everything. There's this icon right here, just to the left of reply. Looks like a sun. And you can click that, and it will just for that email switch it back to white mode, essentially. And then you can see it kind of turns into a little moon looking thing. That's if you want to put it back into dark mode. Okay, so that's it. I just kind of wanted to cover some tips and tricks. I recorded this, so I'll put it on YouTube with our other tech training stuff that we've done. So if you ever want to go back and you can't quite remember how to switch modes or any of the things that, that kind of stuff. Is there any questions about the questions point? So are there questions people have about Outlook that I can answer this morning?
Don't forget notes, sticky notes.
What about sticky notes?
Some people don't know they're there. They're pretty awesome.
Yeah.
You don't even use them.
I've never used them in my entire life, so there's notes. Maybe Galen knows more about it than I do.
I put everything in notes that would normally go on a sticky note on someone's desk or computer.
Oh.
You open up a new note. It's basically just free typing. You can put in, I use it for my passwords. And then when you have several of them lined up, it just kind of sorts them all and they're laying out there for you to use. They can be sent to other people and shared in that direction. Yeah, forward. You can categorize them with different colors. Just kind of a neat tool. Keeps from having to try and find a piece of paper. There's a button on your email that does it.
Yeah. So I guess I'll just note, since she's talking about that, there's also a task area. It's going to auto-populate all the emails that you select for follow-up, like I showed you guys with the flags. But you can also just manually put tasks in here if you want a tool for a to-do list, essentially, and you want to keep everything within Outlook. then this is built into everybody's Outlook. And so you do have that option. That's there as well. Of course, there's contacts, which is your contacts, and then calendar, which is your calendar. I will just note that by default, you're going to just see these 4. And so if you are interested in sticky notes, you just have to come over here to the ... and then you have notes. There is also within here, you'll see folders, which is just a different way of essentially seeing what you would see under the email tab. It's not really a super helpful function. It's just a part of Outlook. Any other questions, or anybody, or are there any other like tips or tricks that people use within Outlook that maybe I don't know about? All right. Well, we're out on 30 minutes for this morning, so I'm going to go ahead and call it. Like I said, I will save this video and throw it out on YouTube if anybody wants to watch it later. But also, within Outlook or any really of the apps that we use, 8x8, Slack, that kind of stuff, I have some videos out on the YouTube, kind of these previous trainings we've had in the past. But if you ever have questions about this stuff, just Slack me or send me an email or give me a call and let me know. And I'm always happy to do one-on-one trainings with people if it's helpful, where we can just sit down and dive into an app and kind of show you the ins and outs of it. I try to stay a little bit more generic when I'm talking to the whole company or a whole group of people. But if you really want to dive into something or learn more about how to use something better, I'm happy to do that one-on-one and give that training. So with that, I will just call it. Thank you, everybody that joined this morning. And if I can do anything to help you with Outlook, you just let me know. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Thanks, guys.